From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
Victims of a sickening sober living scam in Arizona return home to Montana.
We're not being rehabilitated, we're being shoved into a corner.
Plus, we'll learn more about a few of the brave Montanans who served our country in wars past.
They called him Fox. He had false teeth, so he should have been disqualified.
Watch out for wildlife, and not just bears and bison. We have details on attacking otters here in Montana. And good morning, and thanks for waking up with us here on Montana This Morning. I'm Kagan Harshay in for Augusta McDonald. Well, first this morning, access to health care in Montana is now forever changed. Billings Clinic now boasts the state's first ever Level 1 trauma center, which could ultimately lead to top-tier care right here at home. Well, hospital leaders say patients treated at a Level 1 trauma center have a 25% greater chance of survival. That distinction isn't easily earned. The hospital spent $30 million to meet 170 different requirements and pass a rigorous review from the American College of Surgeons. Officials say having that Level 1 center, though, in Montana means fewer patients rush to Denver in helicopters and potentially a lot more lives saved.
The time to get to the place where you're going to stay, to get the final care that you receive, is the most important thing. That's what gives you the best chance of survival if you're severely injured. So bringing that to Montana, cutting down that time, will save lives.
And it was a huge day for Billings Clinic. News of that Level 1 Trauma Center designation came the same day the hospital announced a new merger with Kalispell-based Logan Health. We now know that's going to take effect on September 1st. Well, a bizarre flurry of car wrecks on Highway 3 north of Billings has some questioning that road's safety. Montana Highway Patrol even issuing a warning after 3 serious crashes there, 2 of them deadly, all in the span of just 1 week. Passing is legal right here near mile marker 14, but troopers say there's a dangerous blind spot. There's been multiple crashes there over the past few years. We spoke with troopers who would like to see it turn into a no passing zone, but that's ultimately up to the Montana Department of Transportation.
They didn't notice there was a vehicle that was in that trough right there. They're already into their pass quite a bit by the time they hit that little crest there, and then all of a sudden they see somebody coming. You know, obviously it never hurts to have somebody come out and double check it.
We did reach out to MDT for clarification on the process for changing a passing zone. We're currently still waiting for a response from them. Well, time now to get a quick check on our forecast. Good morning, Miller.
Morning, everybody. Good morning, Kagan. How you doing, bud?
Good to be here, and good to see our temperatures dropping out there.
Yes, a nice change of pace. Yesterday, finally dipping below average. Our high only got up to about 80, so almost a good 10 degrees below the norm. Still milder than normal during the morning, and still seeing that this morning, but those temperatures overnight will start to drop as well. Had a top gust yesterday of 30 miles an hour. We did have some stormy conditions yesterday, whipped some winds around, but no measurable rain at the airport. That's going to change today, though. So we start the month off on a dry note, still pacing ahead for the year, but we anticipate these numbers to get bumped up as we do have some excessive rain possibly coming to our area. Good chance in the yellow area. That's a slight risk, including Billings. 15% chance, and we could see enough rainfall for some flash flooding today. But this is something we don't see. I don't think I've seen this for a while. Look at Miles City and areas to the east. That is a moderate risk. That means a 40% chance. That's a really good shot at seeing enough rainfall where we could see flooding. In fact, it looks like flooding may be likely in those prone areas. Over 2 inches there in Miles City possible. I think Fallon County yesterday, almost 2.5 inches in spots, could get another 3 inches off of this. So a lot of rainfall heading our way, but it won't last. We'll talk about that with the main forecast coming up here in just a bit.
As we're talking about that rain and fire danger, any chance of thunder and lightning with this? Or
oh yeah, definitely. Rain? Oh, there's absolutely a shot where we could see some lightning strikes with this. So hopefully that's not something that's going to aggravate the fire situation. We can only hope that all that rain coming up from the south reaches to those areas that need it the most to quell out those fires.
All right, thanks, Miller.
You got it.
Well, we continue following the latest developments on an Arab-based Medicare fraud scam that conned thousands of Native Americans. MTN's Diane Parker meets with a dejected group from the Northern Cheyenne who are now back home after leaving Montana with eyes on recovery and rehab, but it was never offered.
It's a new phenomenon happening here in Montana. Tribal members waiting at the airport for family members to return home on the Phoenix flight. When they touch down, many are still fighting for their sobriety after being caught up in Arizona's elaborate sober living home scam targeting Montana tribal members.
It's the same story again and again, but on this day, it's a new tribe being targeted as 4 Northern Cheyenne members land in Billings with a 2-hour drive ahead to Ashland.
I'm not gonna lie, it's definitely disheartening. I wanted this program to be the real thing.
Chad Hagan says a fraudulent sober living home bought him and his girlfriend Ariane a one-way flight to Phoenix with the promise of recovery in a 90-day program and a ticket home. What they got was much different. The home has since been suspended by the state of Arizona, and there was no return ticket.
You're supposed to get 72 hours of detox. I went there and they knew I was high, yet still they didn't provide any detox. They literally told me just sleep it off.
A dangerous proposition after 11 years of heavy IV drug use and demoralizing to a couple trying to turn their lives around.
I know the opportunity to relapse is so much more prevalent now here. I'm almost scared to go home.
And they're just two of the more than 8,000 investigators say were victimized as part of a widespread Arizona Medicaid scam. State officials say fraudulent sober living homes lured Native Americans to the state where they were provided free housing but no treatment. Those fake providers then allegedly billed for services not provided, up to $1,300 per person per day, collecting millions in Medicaid payments from the state.
We're not being rehabilitated. We're being shoved into a corner and forgotten about.
Arizona is now suspending those fraudulent homes, leaving tribal members homeless and often high, as many homes allow drinking and drugs, an incentive to keep bodies in beds and collect dollars.
They're given drugs and alcohol. Sometimes they're beaten, sometimes they're raped. This is a new kind of trauma that they're going to experience on top of why they have trauma to begin with.
Reva Stewart is the founder of Stolen People, Stolen Benefits, the Phoenix grassroots effort that helps send this latest group of Montanans home. Jerry Long is also a volunteer and a veteran with a heart of service. They both walk the streets looking for Montana's missing people.
If they do shut down, then what they do is they contact another group home. Hey, I have 10 natives here. I'll sell them to you for this much per person, and then you can have them. So that's why they're being taken from house to house to house to
So
house.
these unlicensed sober living homes in Arizona are collaborating to keep Montana tribal members and other tribal members from across the U.S. missing.
Yes.
Ariane and Chad managed to escape the human trade and homelessness, but Ariane came back to Montana with a severe grease burn. She says the home did nothing to help after her cooking accident. She had to find her own way to the ER. But even so, she feels fortunate to make it back home alive, something that can't be said for all. In Billings, Diane Parker, MTN News.
New this morning, former President Donald Trump is back at his New Jersey golf club after his historic arraignment in Washington, D.C. The former president pleaded not guilty to 4 charges, including 3 counts of conspiracy and 1 for obstruction, for allegedly leading a criminal conspiracy to try and overthrow the 2020 presidential election. The legal teams from both sides are expected back in court on August 28th. Federal prosecutors charged 2 active-duty U.S. Navy sailors based in California with selling sensitive national defense information to China. The indictment charges a 26-year-old petty officer and, separately, a 22-year-old machinist mate. Federal officials say the information includes details on wartime exercises, naval operations, and also critical technical material. Well, the seemingly impossible has happened. Yellowstone National Park is even more beautiful, and it's all thanks to a giant display honoring the indigenous people who used to call the park home. Jackie Coffin takes us out and about to show us more.
Out and About is sponsored by Blue Creek Storage at Shorey.
It might be dark in the park, but Yellowstone is lit up with this beautiful installation. You can even go inside. The sight of 7 teepees standing in line with the Roosevelt Arch is already a powerful sight.
Very much an indigenous area before it even became a park.
But the magic of the display really comes alive after dark.
So this one is all about unity and bringing people together and building relationships.
The Pretty Shield Foundation was started by Bill Snell to share indigenous culture and keep traditions and language alive.
My mother, Dr. Elma Snell, who was actually the grandchild of Pretty Shield, and Pretty Shield, she taught her about herbs and nutrition. My ancestors really expressed the importance of us to share our way of life.
And lighting the teepees outside of a place that attracts millions of visitors a year has allowed Snell to share that way of life with people from all over the world.
It's pretty amazing. pretty spectacular to have all these teepees set up here and all the discussion that we're able to have. It's really a cool setup.
Installing and lighting up teepees started as a project for Pretty Shield in Winnipeg, Canada, as a symbol for hope for troubled youth. Since then, it has spread across the West and first came to Yellowstone in 2022.
Last year was about the resiliency of the people because of the flood and the bridges and the roads were washed away. So this year we thought, well, let's go back down. People, by popular demand, I guess, would really like to do it.
The teepees will be here at the north entrance until August 7th, but Snell knows the impression they'll make on visitors will last a lifetime.
We're resilient, we still exist, and I think that it's really important that we continue to grow and be shared with all people.
In Gardner, Jackie Coffin, MTN News.
Good road trip this weekend. Well, it's important to be bear aware while you're enjoying the great outdoors, but as several people found out near Three Forks this week, you also need to be otter observant. Yeah, get this. This week, 3 women were attacked and bitten by a group of otters while they were floating the Jefferson River right near Lewis and Clark Caverns. All 3 were injured. One victim so badly she actually had to be taken to the hospital via helicopter. Montana wildlife officials say the attack appears to be defensive in nature. Well, some of the Treasure State's most decorated veterans are living on inside the pages of a brand new book. That book is called Beyond Belief, True Stories of Montana Heroes That Defy Comprehension. The authors writing it want to make sure that the bravest among us are never forgotten. Q2's Russ Riesinger has the details in this morning's Positively Montana report.
Positively Montana is sponsored by Yellowstone Valley Electric Cooperative.
In Kalispell in 1964, I wrote my first book. Never was published. It was a World War II story about 3 guys who got the Medal of Honor. And it's just been writing seems to be my passion.
A passion indeed. Douglas Sterner's new book is the 111th military history book that this Vietnam veteran has published.
That's what I hope to accomplish, is to inspire others.
Sterner has spent the past 3 decades researching and compiling a database of the military's most highly decorated veterans. His latest book tells the heroic stories of 185 Montanans who fought for their country in wars from the 1800s to the present. He says he knew from the minute he started writing that Sarah Stiers, a Billings Senior graduate who was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross, would be on the cover.
The Distinguished Flying Cross is a very high award. It's only been presented to 24 women in history and only 1 woman in the Navy, and Sarah Stiers earned that in Afghanistan shortly after the War on Terrorism began in 2001.
The pages of the book are full of incredible stories of those who went above and beyond, like Leo Powers.
He was the old man. He was 1 year under the cutoff for the draft. They called him Pops. He had false teeth, so he should have been disqualified. And old farmer from Montana, and goes to Europe and earns the Medal of Honor. And it's just unbelievable what this old guy did.
Sterner says many of these veterans never talked much about what they did because heroism doesn't happen on a good day.
And that's why it's important for historians like myself to tell their stories so that they don't have to, because what they did is important to future generations, not just to their kids and their grandkids, but those men and women who will be called to service in decades to come.
In Billings, Russ Riesinger, MTN News.